important things, values that we hold dear, being something that's defined in a time of crisis, when human will is stretched to its breaking point. It is there, in crisis, that we find definition for what are otherwise just words. This is a story of change. The 17th of April, 1975 is a Thursday. Vuthi Long, 12 years old, was getting dressed by his mother in the back of his house. His older brother, Setha, was helping another one of their brothers out with some household chores, and their sister was at the market buying groceries. When Setha heard 3 knocks on the door, he didn't think twice. But when he opened the door, he was greeted by the barrel of an AK-47 pointing right between his eyes. Within minutes, the entire family, all 14 of them, were out on the streets with nothing but the clothes on their back. Within hours, they were being marched out of the city, not knowing where they're going, not knowing what they're going to find when they get there, not knowing when or if they'll come home. Within days, the family had been split apart, and within weeks, the grandparents all the way down to the grandchildren were working in the hot summer sun. Within months, 10 of those 14 members of the family were dead. The remaining, starving, shuddering with disease, and under threat of execution, were struggling to stay alive. That day, the 17th of April, 1975, was the day the Cambodian Civil War ended, and the day that the Khmer Rouge took the capital, Phnom Penh. Now, less than 2 weeks later in Saigon, it was the evacuation of the American embassy on the 29th of April. If you look at photographs from Saigon, you can see pictures of Vietnamese mothers throwing their babies into American helicopters. And you have these stories of American embassy personnel taking tens of people and claiming them to be their dependents. And after the conquest, you have millions of people flee the country as refugees. Right next door in Cambodia, there was none of that panic. Nobody knew who the Khmer Rouge were. The idea of communism was a very abstract concept. It was not understood. Now, I'm not going to go into excruciating detail on what these people went through, but I'll leave you with this. In 1975, when the Khmer Rouge took the capital, there was an estimated 8 million Cambodians. Less than 4 years later, there were fewer than 6. 3 years, 9 months, and 20 days. That's how long the Khmer Rouge were in power. 2 million people, 1 in 4. Doctors, engineers, intellectuals, teachers, students, people who spoke a foreign language, people who wore glasses, people who had the wrong beliefs, the wrong ethnicity, people they didn't like were taken into the fields and they were shot. Those who survived that were then subjected to working up to 18 hours a day, and when they were sick there was no medicine, and when they were starving there was no food. Now if you go to Cambodia today, and I've been there 3 or 4 times, I've total probably been there about a year now, and you look at the people and you talk to the people there are thousands and thousands of people who just go through life. They have a life, they have a family, but if you look in their eyes, they're dead. They died with their siblings, they died with their parents. And you can fill libraries and volumes and tomes of their stories of the horrible hell that they had to go through. But I'm more interested not in that, but in the people who were able to go through all of that, who were able to walk through hell on earth and come out the other side. Setha and Vuthi are 2 of those people. When the Khmer Rouge collapsed, Setha was 19 years old. He was in a rice paddy in West Cambodia. He didn't know if he was going to get shot. He didn't know if he was going to step on a landmine. He didn't know he was going to get his meal. He didn't know where his family was. He made his way for Thailand, hoping there was going to be a refugee camp. The Thais didn't let him in the country. The Americans and the French didn't grant him asylum. He spent 13 years stuck in no man's land in between Thailand and Cambodia. When he left, he had 2 master's degrees and an honorary PhD. Vuthi, his brother, had learned 7 languages and became a leading scholar in Buddhism in the country. What made them different? The answer goes back to the original idea of change. Change for them was not a decision. We look at dates in history and we think that the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July or the Bastille Day, that these were days of change. But if you were in Paris, if you were in Philadelphia in either of these days, your life before and after was not all that different. If you were in Phnom Penh on the 17th of April, your entire life was completely flipped on its head in a matter of hours. What made them different? Why were they able to succeed where others failed? When Setha fled to the border, he was 19 years old. Like I said, he couldn't find anywhere to eat. He didn't know where his family was. He didn't know if he was going to get shot when he got there. But by the time he got to the border, he had 20 children, younger than him, hungrier than him, that he had found a way to take care of. In his own words, I used to be filled with hatred and revenge. But when I saw the children, when I saw that they were hungrier than me, that they suffered more than me, they became more important. Compassion, perseverance, and forgiveness, not these individually, but together, was what got him and his brother through it. Now, Setha and Vuthi are an example of a wider trend. I talk to a lot of people in Cambodia who have been able to get through it. People who are university professors, people who are lawyers, people who have been able to build businesses. Not one person who I spoke to who had any sort of success in their life after the Khmer Rouge hung on to any sort of hatred. There was something different about them, something that transcended. The change wasn't their decision. They didn't decide to go through that. They didn't decide to watch their families killed or to starve or to have malaria and not have medicine. They didn't choose that. But the change itself cut away all that was extraneous, cut all the fat, and what was left was only what was most important. And what was most important transcended them individually. In South Africa, they had truth and reconciliation councils, or commissions. In Germany, they had Nuremberg trials. Cambodia had none of that. The entire burden of being able to move forward and let go was placed on the individual. There was no group effort. There was no social effort to move forward. People in Cambodia still deny the genocide happened. Former Khmer Rouge leaders live freely and deny any part. What made them different? It was not something within them. It was not their own personality that was stronger than others. It was that they were able to remove themselves and work for something higher. SETTA today runs an organization that rebuilds schools, trains teachers, and creates infrastructure. Khmer Rouge burned schools, killed teachers, and destroyed infrastructure. 50,000 people have been helped by him in more than 30 different villages. Vuthi works with him and sits on the board of 6 different NGOs, translates for the United Nations. Now, these stories themselves are very interesting, and I was fascinated by them. And a lot of people, after I tell them, they say, well, how does this apply to me? The very fact that they were able to look at something like that and say that this is not just me, this doesn't matter just to me, this is about my community, this is about other people. That proves that this is not something that is unique to them, this is not something that is unique to Cambodia. These are innate truths about human nature. And it's very easy, whether you're in the States, whether you're in Cambodia, whether you're anywhere, to succumb to hatred and to bigotry. We don't have to go through that tragedy to realize the truths of their triumph. They went through the worst of it. Vuthi lost an eye, he lost a finger, SETTA starved. And yet they have been able to forgive. They went through the tragedy and they came out triumphant, and we can profit much from their example. Thank you.